founder of Fullstack Academy, which is a programming school similar to NYPL's NYPL TechConnect program. And we've trained amazing people through hard work, dedication, and a lot of emotional support. And we're training them to become software engineers. So just like at NYPL, students come to Fullstack for 13 weeks and do bonding, programming. They try to come out the other side to work at amazing companies like Google, Facebook, Airbnb on the other side. We graduate over 1,200 graduates across the world, so I can visit almost any city and meet up with some Fullstack graduates. And what I want to share with you tonight is from teaching these 1,200 students 4 secrets to being a better programmer that I've learned. So first, let me tell you the story about how I became a programmer. So I was born to 2 parents who were both CS professors, so I had computers by the time I was 2 years old. I helped my mom program C code for a PhD when I was 4, and by the time I was 7, I had written my first game distributed on the early version of the internet. In high school, I was a member of the computer science club and completed a programming competition all around the world. And then I, pretty much breezed through my CS classes in college and was pretty heavily recruited by the top companies by the time I was a junior. So, in case you couldn't tell, the whole story is a myth. And it's a myth, but I think it's one that I keep hearing because programmers like to tell it to ourselves because it makes us feel special and part of an elite group. When movies come out like The Social Network and they perpetuate these kind of myths, we're often happy to let that be because, for the first time, finally we're the cool ones. So, but of course, I did have many advantages growing up. I did have a computer at home when I was, back in the 80s and 90s, and my mom even got me a programming tutor in middle school. But I remember I tried to do something with for loops when I was 11, and I didn't get it, so I gave up on it, and I checked the timestamps. I didn't go back to that problem until I was 14. So that's 3 years to be stuck on for loops, which I'm sure lowers your Codecademy score. And after that, I did go to a top school for CS, but I struggled in lots of the classes. I struggled with pointers and recursion in my freshman year, and I got a 26%, I remember this so clearly, on my first exam on compilers. And this is on a test where you get 20% for just putting your name. So it took me a lot of time to get over the basic things. And I just remember I kept getting stuck on things over and over again, and I kept thinking I'll never be great at this. So I wanted to tell this story because students at Fullstack, they always ask me, and they're always concerned with something they call imposter syndrome. And they think that they're starting too late, or they'll never be the same as a quote-unquote real engineer. And to me, that's really what I've learned from working with my students is that that's really a false dichotomy. The more I meet technology leaders in New York, the more I meet people who are considered to be great programmers, the more I learn that this whole myth of this brilliant programmer was never true. We've all struggled at many points in our career, and most of us are here not because we're brilliant, but just because we've stuck with it. And okay, so the first secret is to stop believing the myths about programmers that you hear. And you're going to feel behind, but I want to say, don't confuse someone having a head start with someone being a better runner. I've seen hundreds of students grow in their careers, and I've come to believe that really persistence is a much better indicator for success than brilliance. Okay, so how do you set yourself up for success through persistence? My second secret is great because it's not too expensive, it's not very hard, and it's a lot of fun. So it's what's happening right here, and that's building community. To get better at programming, you need a community. And there's just too many things to learn, too many places to get stuck, too many things to know, to go by yourself. One of my favorite proverbs is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so it's also another negative effect of the programming myth. Believing that you need to be brilliant to be a programmer, it makes you incredibly lonely. I got stuck on things for years, and I was always afraid that I didn't live up to this myth. And so many times I would just tell myself that, I'm stuck. And if I look back on it, my own programming acceleration really didn't happen until pretty late in my life. And I would say really when I was about 25. And I found the Ruby on Rails community here in New York. That I really started to feel like, okay, I'm starting to get this. I'm starting to feel like this is my craft. And I was always programming before that, but it wasn't fun. It wasn't something that I felt like was me. It was just something I was doing. And so I really, the community was what let me grow personally. And so the best thing is that there's so many communities now around learning programming, including NYPL's TechConnect program. There are hundreds of great meetups, online chat rooms, programs, and courses that you can take. So I would say take some time right here tonight to talk to the people that you've been working with and commit to meeting up once or twice a week for the next few months. It's the best thing you can do to make sure that your commitment and your investment that you've already made continues to pay off. The third secret is that the best way to learn something is really, ironically, to teach something. So there's even something programmers call rubber duck debugging, and it sounds silly because it really is. It's where when you're stuck on a bug, you put a rubber duck and you explain the bug to the rubber duck. Other great techniques are things like pair programming, where you work next to someone. I'm sure many of you have been doing that. And there's a lot of research out there that talks about why teaching is so effective. And I'll tell you kind of the personal reasons why I think it's so. The first reason is that teaching forces you to take these abstract ideas in your mind and like serialize them or put them into concrete sentences with your mouth. And I'm sure all of you have gotten the idea where it's like this idea is like bubbling around, but like actually writing it out or speaking it makes it crystallize a lot more. The second reason is that speaking activates a very advanced part of your brain. I also recently had a child. My child's now 2 years old, and something that I was surprised is that speaking is one of the last human skills we develop. So he could gesture and sign before he could talk. So it's probably like, kids can probably learn to type before they can learn to speak ideas. And I think that by speaking, by teaching, you activate parts of your brain and you force them to kind of come help you out solve this problem. That's why that rubber duck debugging thing works, right? Because you're just speaking out the problem, you're engaging more of your brain in helping you solve it. And finally, teaching in front of others is also just really terrifying. It combines all of our fears about public speaking with additional benefit of possibly being wrong on a lot of stuff. And that adrenaline really sharpens the mind. So another thing you can do tonight is talk to your instructors, talk to your, see if you can help and TA the next program or be involved in some way. I guarantee if you do that, you're going to go much farther than just trying to learn yourself. It's also really fun teaching. It's like being a rock star for coding. And let me share my final secret on improving your learning, and that really to me is the power of gratitude. So because learning and growing is challenging, and it's by definition, you're going to grow, and that means you're going to get stuck. You're going to have to keep pushing past being stuck. And to me, gratitude is that rechargeable battery that you can always draw from when you're feeling discouraged, right? And you can start easily right now by just being grateful to yourself. I think you've worked hard over these last few weeks. You've come a long way, right? I'm sure I looked at these projects. I'm sure there's some of you where building something like that would have looked impossible to you 10, 20 weeks ago, right? And also thank each other for the time that you've given each other. I mean, that's the early part of the community. I think it's something that we all really be grateful that in each other and that community that we built here. And really take time to thank your instructors, because I know, I've been a teacher, I've worked with teachers, they give their heart and soul and passion to you, and I think that it's great teachers are really, I think, such an important part of becoming who we are. And also make sure to thank all the people who run this program, because I also run a coding school. I know it's very difficult to run a program, and NYPL is much bigger than Fullstack. So, I really love also that this kind of stuff is happening in our libraries. It's really energizing to me to see this kind of stuff happening in our public spaces. I just find that an incredible story. So, I'd say I myself am also touched to be here. All right, so to summarize the 4 secrets: don't believe the hype. Stick with it and stay together. Teach it forward and remember to give thanks. And finally, let me share my own gratitude for letting me share in this special night with you. I wish you all a bright and exciting road ahead. Thanks.